All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My Live Healthy Miami Gardens family. We hope that you are well today. I send you greetings, lots of love, peace, and joy. This is Dr. Cheryl Coleman with Abundant Living Health and Wellness Resulting Services here in collaboration with Live Healthy Miami Gardens, our weekly Facebook Live series. I do share with you as we do open up that our Facebook Live series, it is a weekly series that is put on by Miami Gardens, really around helping our residents to be healthy and whole. And I say mind, body, spirit, and soul. These segments are designed just to make sure that we bring awareness to our community, awareness of resources that help them to make the best and the healthiest choices there is. And so I'm grateful to partner with Live Healthy Miami Gardens. Well, we're going to dive right in. We are in the month of June, and we're grateful for our segment that we get to bring each month. And this month is Men's Health Month. Yay for our men's. With that said, today our segment is around men's mental health. We know that May was Mental Health Month, and we're continuing to dive down again. June, as we designated for Men's Health Month. We've always championed different disease processes for men, and most of the times we highlight prostate cancer. But we're grateful for some legislation that was brought forth in 1994, which helps to highlight men's mental health. And with that said, our segment today is going to be centered around men's mental health. And it's so vitally important for us to focus on the mental, I know it says mental health, I say mental wellness of our men. We want to encourage them in this month to not only seek out the physical health that they need, but mental health, the mental checkups that they need. And so with that said, I want to stick a pin right here. As we talk about mental health and mental health checkups, I'm sure that men may not, as much as women, go and seek out that help as it relates to their physical health. But guess what? Not just physical health, but mental health. And so on today, we've got an amazing guest that's going to be here with us on today. And this guest is going to help us to dive into maybe some of the stigmas around men and why they are not seeking out to get the help that they need. None of us should suffer in silence. And so with that shared, I want to give you a few little statistics as we get ready to have a guided conversation with an amazing guest on this afternoon. As it relates to men's health, depression and anxiety is one of the huge things in which men face in this time and in this season. And oftentimes they're facing it in silence based on stigmas, right? We teach our men that they have to man up, they have to be strong, and they're not to show emotions. And sometimes these are the things that can hinder our men for seeking out the help in which they need. Of course, that's not the only issue. There are other things such as the social economical spaces that men find themselves in, the cultures in which they're raised in, and again, the race, and all of these things are factors around our mental health for our men. And so today, this segment is so very important, and I pray that you share it with others. Those who are on with us now, we're grateful. And for those that will see it later, we want to encourage our men. This is vitally, and I say it over and over to you, important that we champion this to help to encourage our men. Although mental health seems to affect women more, I do share with you some statistics. There's 1 in 10 men that may suffer with depression and anxiety. Now, that might seem like a small number, but if we put 100 men together, there are 10 of them that may be suffering silently. And of those 10 men, what's staggering is only maybe 3 or 4 of them will seek out help. And we're seeking to turn that thing around. We want all 10 of those men, right? Any of them that are affected, in this case, in this scenario that I gave you, to be able to reach out for the help in which they need. And so with that shared, some other statistics I want to share, and I'm going to bring up our guest in just a moment. You're hearing some information from me, but there was a poll that's taken, and I want to share those results of that poll to help guide our conversation with our special guest. And it goes something like this: 77% of men polled have suffered with common mental health symptoms like anxiety, stress, and depression. 40% of those men have never, ever spoken about it to anyone. 29% of those who have done so say they have been embarrassed to share it, while 20% say that that happens because of the negative stigma around it. We've got work to do. And so, with that shared, we're getting ready to bring up our special guest on today. We're grateful for the faith perspective that's going to come to us today around this issue. The guest that we're bringing up today is none other than Pastor Marvin Charles Lew Jr. He is the lead servant and proclaimer of the Stewart Memorial CME Church, yes, in Mobile, Alabama. We're grateful for his presence today. He has an extensive background. He has a bachelor's of arts degree in religion with a minor in English. He hails from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. He also holds a master's of divinity degree in homiletics, worship, and church administration, and guess what? Pastoral counseling and care. And so we're looking forward to his perspective from a faith-based view. And he is a man, right? And he is an African-American man that can share with us. We thank God for his ministry since the year of 1990 and pastoring since 1997. We're going to bring him up now to begin to share what his experience has been around counseling men in ministry, what his personal view is about seeking help, and then also what role the church should play. Pastor Lew, we turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Coleman, and good afternoon, Miami Gardens family. It is so good to reconnect with my folk in the 305-786-954-123. All of that in between. It's good to be here, especially during mental health month, to share some perspective. So thank you for the opportunity to share. Let me just be honest. As you said, I am a man. I'm a man of faith, and I'm a Black man. And when you put all those three things together on top of pastoring and serving our community, I am not exempt from having mental health challenges. I learned in my teenage years of the impact that it has had upon my genealogy, upon my immediate family. And I myself was finally diagnosed after a traumatic life experience of being bipolar phase 2 with PTSD. It rocked my core because I'm preaching to folk and telling them that just pray about it and God's going to make everything all right, which I truly do believe. But I've learned to mature that how God makes things all right is by putting us in positions, putting us in rooms, putting us before people that God has equipped to help us work through our issues. And mental health is nothing less serious than going to a cardiologist, going to an oncologist, going to your general practitioner for your health, because we do have challenges in our mind that affect our decisions, and those decisions impact our destiny.
Wow, that is absolutely powerful, Pastor. In our faith tradition, we say we overcome the dark forces. We say it by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and no greater testimony than that you shared in your own truth. As you shared your truth and with your diagnosis, what type of help, and did you seek out that help, or what prompted you to get the help to get you in a place to achieve healing and stability around that diagnosis?
I'm going to be honest, my family forced me to get the help. My family forced me. And as much as I love and appreciate my family, I'm somewhat embarrassed to have to say that it took somebody else to tell me to get your behind in somebody's office because this ain't good. Um, with the breakdowns that I was having, with the challenges that I was having, they somebody pushed me and forced me. But once I got in that chair and got over the stigma of telling somebody my business, I realized I needed that to release what was inside of me so somebody could professionally help me unpack what I'm dealing with. Um, those tools that I learned, those steps that I learned, those processes that I learned have helped me now to be able to see the signs and catch myself and find that space to say, all right, let's unwind, let's debrief, let's woosah, whatever you got to do, because we're going down a track that we know leads to no good. So I am grateful for a praying mother. I'm grateful for praying spouse. I'm grateful for praying aunts. I'm grateful for men of character saying, hey, man, we want you to live and not die. And seeing something that was changing in me so that I can get back to where God would have me to be.
Wow. That is absolutely an amazing testimony. And we do thank God for family, right? And that's what this awareness is all about, because sometimes when you're in that space yourself, it's really kind of hard. We live in a world where we can see others, but we don't always see ourselves. And so we thank God for people in our lives that care enough for us to help to champion us. And then also the humility that we find in ourselves to say, hey, because our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. God made it with every self-healing property when we listen to our bodies, which includes our minds. And so we're so grateful to hear your testimony. We're grateful for your family because you are a much needed pillar in the community as you preach and teach, not just in Mobile, Alabama, but all over. And so we know that God wants you to not only preach to others, but he wants you to have a quality of life. And as I listened to your testimony, you talked about like sharing with someone else and tools that help you. Those tools, are they something that you use ongoing, or was it something that you just maybe had a crisis in? Like, how do you walk this journey out once you get this diagnosis and now you're aware?
I use those tools continuously because my battle is not over. My battle, my challenges can crop up at any time. To even go more even deeper in my own personal testimony, I was born with a life threatening condition that literally took me out 24 hours old. And over my life, I've had to battle that issue that has tried to take me out numerous times. So as I've had to deal with my medical issue, it became natural for me to realize that with the challenges that I was experiencing with my mental health, I had to apply the same discipline and same practices to make sure I keep that intact. I want to let somebody know that if you are dealing with mental health challenges, they just don't automatically go away. Again, I serve a God that is able. I serve a God that is a miracle worker because I am a miracle. But in the process of that God, our God being a miracle worker, he gives us the tools to manifest his wonders, to say what they meant for evil, he's turned it around for my good. And when we hear doctors' prognoses about our conditions and what we're dealing with, we've got to be able to take what they've said, use the medicine, use the process that they've given us, and combine it with our faith. Because when we know our faith is working, we know our faith works wonders in us.
Wow. That's absolutely powerful. I know that it's encouraging and inspiring, and I'm making sure that I'm sharing this. this segment with as many people as possible, because that's what we need, is the transparency. And there's nothing more powerful than somebody's walking through the journey. And as you speak about, it being ongoing, I often get to teach and share in the various settings when I'm teaching on mental health, that it is a lifelong process, right? We can be stable at one juncture of our life. The pandemic has showed us this, right? And then at another place, we're one catastrophe away from experiencing a mental illness, right? And not necessarily everybody will have a diagnosed disorder, but definitely there are illnesses that come. We all experience depression, anxiety, and distress, right? There are two types of stress. Eustress is the good stress, and de-stress is the bad stress. And so we're all going to experience it at some shape and time in our life. And so it's powerful that you mentioned that it's ongoing. So our mental wellness is an ongoing process that we have to endure. And so as you talked about, like, and your family, I do want to share and make sure that those who will connect with this Facebook Live understand some of the opportunities that we have as we are in community and living with our loved ones, that might be red flags for us, that our loved one is in distress, right? That they are about to embark upon something that's going to cause their thinking, their acting, to be unwell for themselves and those that they're living with. And so some of those things are, the first thing, it shows up in our personality, right? There are changes in our personality. And so we've got to be in tune with one another and those that we're in relationship. And when we start to see changes in the personality in which, they're moodier, right, than they used to be, right? Anger and lashing out, right? Or beginning to isolate themselves from the activities and the things that used to bring them joy, right? Changes in our emotions, right? Our emotions, a lot of times, and again, as men, we're taught not to show our emotions, but God loved us so much, He gave us our emotions as a guide, right? Those good emotions guide us along the good spaces and to stay on the course. But when those bad emotions well up, it's a sign for us to investigate a little bit further. So changes in our personality, changes in our emotional well-being, and how we show up in isolation, and then sudden absence of what we call self-care. The Bible tells us, and we're doing a faith perspective, right, that we're to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And if we're not loving ourselves, right, that means taking care of ourselves, doing the things day to day to make sure that we're cared for, eating properly, sleeping, resting, showering, just down to the basics. When we start to see changes in those things, we want to continue to dive deeper in those. And then if we don't see anything past those four things and it continues to spiral, then there's something that calls a sense of helplessness or hopelessness, or feeling overwhelmed by very basic day-to-day activities. These are all warning signs. And if we don't get them in check, they can lead to very dangerous choices in what we do for ourselves individually, collectively. And in some cases, when we look at depression, even though women may suffer more than men, but men tend to commit suicide more than women. And so these are things we want to make sure that we're in tune as we listen. And thank you, Pastor Lou, for sharing, how your family pushed you so that you probably didn't go through all of those things. And I'm quite sure you experienced some of those things. And with that shared, Pastor Lou, and your own personal testimony around this, how in ministry, when men have turned to you, how have you been able to guide them out of your own experiences around mental health?
I've been blessed to be able to connect with them and give them the space to share from a non-judgmental point of view. Men, especially men of color and character, we have challenges about admitting our faults and our weaknesses, especially when it comes to our mental health, our physical health, and our financial health, because we are raised and trained to be to carry the load, to do our part, to be the providers, the protectors, the gatekeepers, if you will. And if there are any chinks in our armor, it makes us feel inadequate, ineffective, and inequipped to do what we believe we've been called to do. So the first thing you got to do is give a man the space to share, and space to share in a place that's non-judgmental, that's understanding, that's listening, and that is relatable. The next thing I've been blessed to do is to be able to tell brothers that, listen, you don't have to be down in the dumps to be dealing with mental illness, to be dealing with mental issues. If you are geek 25/8, if you're bouncing up and off the walls and everything is all good all the time, there may be something that you're hiding from. There may be something that you're running from, that we create a facade or a fantasy of favor when in actuality we're wrestling with something that we don't want to accept failure. We find individuals, especially again, men of color and character, who never want to fail. I am one of those. But one of the things that we have to learn is in the midst of our failure, there's a lesson in us getting back up and trying again. Uh, what has been uh, what has been tragically told is that if you mess up once, you ain't never gonna be anybody. You sorry, you just like them. You la da dee la da da. No, I serve a God that I read in my holy text that don't grow weary in doing what is right, because in due season you shall reap if you faint not. We serve a God of another and another and another chance. So we have to remind our brothers, we have to remind our sisters, we have to remind everyone that failure is not the sign of the end. Failure may just be a sign to begin again. And then finally, in your sharing, in your encouragement, you got to hold people accountable. Are you taking your meds? Are you having your conversations? Are you calming down? Are you creating a space for you to be well? Are you strong enough to say, hey, something is not right? And are you are you able to allow someone to say, listen, I see something and I'm praying that we work through this. And that person may be family. And in a lot of cases, that person may be your psychiatrist or your therapist who's trying to make sure we don't go back down those roads of pain and peril that we tried to escape from.
Wow. Listen, Pastor Lou, this has been really very powerful. And it is encouraging to me, not just as a healthcare provider, but this topic is near and dear to my heart because I have loved ones who have suffered in silence. And I don't think none of us need to suffer in silence around this. And so you said some powerful things that help us in our journey and some powerful things for us in ministry, because the church is the one place where people will turn to for help, for hope, for comfort in the various trials and tribulations in which they have. And mental health also is a part of that. Again, especially in light of coming out of this pandemic, it has challenged us in every dimension of our health. And so those open, transparent, non-judgmental spaces, we're grateful that you're creating those. And we're praying that you're championing that with your colleagues in ministry. And of course, I know that you do stand for that and making sure that anybody that you can influence, and prayerfully as we're sharing this through our Live Healthy Miami Garden segments, that we can influence, that people need this open and transparent state. But I thank you that you just didn't leave us there. You talked about then being accountable and getting the help that we need. And you mentioned the medication piece. Oftentimes people don't want to take medications. And as a health practitioner, I recognize there's side effects sometimes of those medications. And, there's a process with that. And so I just would tag on to what you said, and to encourage them as they're working with their therapists and their medical doctors around any side effects and how you manage those things. Because when we introduce medication, there's often a 2 to 3 month period of time, I don't care what med you're on, that your body needs to adjust. And so working with your doctors and your accountability partners and therapists around side effects, so that you don't come off those meds without getting the help that you need, is so vitally important. And thank you. That whole accountability piece, we need that in our lives. And that's a huge challenge around those who are diagnosed not just with an illness, but sometimes with a disorder, right? Because if the disorder is in the mind and you don't even perceive you have that disorder, that's challenging in itself. And so I'm grateful that you are sharing your testimony in an open and a transparent way. The truth sets us free. And so we thank God for that. And we just wanted to have a conversation today, and just to bring awareness around this, and not just the awareness, but to encourage our men to make sure that in this men's health month in June, that yes, you go to your doctors and get your physical checkup. That's your blood work, right? That's making sure hypertension is in order, any chest or x-ray, EKG, all of those things that we want you to do. But as we're championing in the medical dimension of health, that we now want to begin to include mental health checkups, right? And there is help out there for us. Pastor Lou, we are so grateful for you. Just any closing thoughts that you want to share? We're going to leave space for that right now for you.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Coleman, and I'm speaking blessings on the work that you are doing. Let me leave you with this. When Jesus encountered the man who was sleeping and having peril in the graveyard, he takes the time for the man's issues to speak to him. When the man says, we're legion because there are so many of us. Whenever, as we're encountering our brothers and sisters, especially our brothers who are dealing with issues, give them the space to allow those issues to speak. And let me leave you with this. You're not crazy because you're having challenges. What makes us crazy is when we don't face them and get the help that we need, so that we can turn that, we can be the sane, stable, and soaring individuals that we've been created to be. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Wow, that's powerful. And I don't think I could add anything else with that. We're so grateful for you taking time out of your schedule today, sharing with us your own personal testimony, tools, and encouragement and inspiration around this topic. And we just stand with you. And we're grateful for those that who are with us and those that will view this segment. We pray that something was said that will help to encourage you along the way. And yes, for us to champion and advocate for our men's mental health. We're mighty grateful during this June's month of men's mental health. Thank you, Pastor Lou. Once again, we pray choice blessings upon you. We thank you for sharing from your faith perspective. And so again, we thank God for, again, You Live Healthy Miami Gardens. And again, once again, for allowing me to host this segment. We're going to sign off, and we say peace, love, and blessings to you all. And let's keep our men lifted up, encouraged to get those checkups, and to be healthy and whole, mind, body, spirit, and soul. We're signing off. God bless you all.